I hope you enjoy today's version of Widow, Wisdom, and Well. In this podcast, we're taking a little bit of a slant from our traditional interview with widows or widowers, and we're interviewing Helen Bernie. She is a divorcee and also a small business owner. And I really thought it was important for everyone to hear her story of how she managed her business from her first relationship through her divorce and then into her new blended and supported relationship, all while managing 4 kids, the pets that come back and forth, and really how those conversations of personal money matters and a small business money matters can be impacted. I call this Decisions of the Heart. We kind of came up with that title as we talked. And I want you to pay close attention to when Helen starts talking about the 80-20 split between income, proportional, as well as the 50-50 decision making. There's a big difference between the money matters and the decision making in relationships. And for those of us who might not have had the experience of all the decision making in widowhood or before widowhood, I think this is a really good lesson. And also a good lesson of how to carry forward with your own small business or your career while learning to love another. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, everybody. This is Donna Dean Kendrick, and welcome back to the Widow, Wisdom, and Wealth podcast. We have a little bit of a different guest today. This is Helen Bernie, and she's going to be helping us with what it felt like to be a divorcee, going through divorce, understanding your finances, and then ultimately blending families again and relationships and finances, all while expanding her own career as a health coach. So Helen is the founder of Cultivate Health Coaching. She's also the author, a mom, a co-partner in a blended family with 4 kiddos and all of their pets. And she recently authored a book, Energetic Eating, Live Bold Beyond Dieting, which is launching in just a few weeks on June 11th. Are you so excited, Helen?
I just got goosebumps when you said that because I don't think I've had anybody say it to me. I've only been saying it to everybody else. So thank you for that.
No, it's great. And if anyone can go ahead and Google the name of that book, again, it is Energetic Eating. The cover is fantastic. It is beautiful. You look
Yeah,
radiant. I love it.
thank
So
you so
thank
much.
you for blessing us all with your work.
Yeah,
All right, we're going to dig in a little bit. Sound good?
it sounds great. Yeah.
All right. So, just for the listeners in the beginning, expand on where you are right now with your career and your family, and then we'll kind of re engineer it and go backwards in time. And you can tell us more of your story. Cool?
Yeah, cool. Well, I am currently in a blended family with my partner Michelle. We are unmarried, but live together in New Jersey with our 4 girls. One of the oldest is off at college. The other one's in high school. Mine are in middle school and elementary school. So we've got a full spectrum of ages and stages, all women, one house. And it's a lot of fun and a lot of love and so much affection. And I feel really, really lucky to have that. So that's where we are in our family life. In my work life, I continue to expand as a coach, as an author, as a speaker, and have grown my business from just working in my little studio space in the backyard of the house that I had with my ex and into the place and space in the studio and the online world that I now work in with my partner, who isn't quite a part of my business, but actually manages a lot of my finances in my business.
That's good. We all have our
Yeah.
expertise, right? So, it's good you have someone helping you out there. So, let's start a little bit. Tell us a little about the first marriage, how old you were, how you guys met, when did the kids come, and where did the this career path start for you?
Sure. So my ex and I first met when I was working in media in New York City, and we worked at a television show called In the Life that aired on PBS. It was a gay and lesbian news magazine at the time, documentary style that started, I think, in the 70s. And at the time, I was working as a post production associate, and she was working in event planning. And we very quickly became fast friends. We loved each other's company. We loved to laugh together. We loved spending time together and just really cherish each other's company. And that to me was a new type of relationship that wasn't kind of a reckless relationship, which I had been through so many times. This was a kind, stable, open hearted relationship, just unconditional love that felt safe. like for the first time in a long time. And that safety led us to many kind of ups and downs, whether I wanted the safety, didn't want the safety, wanted it, in and out of the relationship, and finally said, you know what, I deserve this. And together we decided that we were going to get married. And within a couple of years, we had our first child, Lexi, and who's my middle schooler. And then a couple of years later, we had my second child, Jill. So as I mentioned, I was in media back then. My career actually went into education. And then from education, when I was at home taking care of my second child, Jillian, I decided to go into health coaching so that I could spend a little time at home. But as it goes, I got very invested in my career and very quickly ended up making that a full-time gig.
Got it. So now when you have these babies, right, and you're switching your careers, like how did it work with you guys with benefits and how did you make financial decisions together?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting. As a young couple, we very easily just grew up together. Like we grew from not really having anything to one of us having me making more money and then to her making more money. And it felt like an even playing field from the beginning because we were on the playing field together. We're like, we're making money. Let's share all this. And then we have our children together and purchased homes together. It just felt like everything was natural, easily divided because it was all not really divided. It was kind of conquered together. And so once I ended up but choosing to leave my teaching career and go into health coaching, that also was really easy. It was like I was the stay-at-home mom for a little while I did my education stuff, and she worked full time, and we chose a small house so that we could use the money for that. Decisions like that flowed between us without much effort. It was just like we take care of each other, and this is what we do.
Yeah, I love that. And I found the same thing with my late husband. Like we would have the point where it was whose career are we going to follow? His was abroad, which meant I gave up mine. And I knew the only way he could promote is if he went. And I always had confidence I could go back into the marketplace and probably pick up where I left off, knowing I'd have a break, but I'd be able to advance where he could only advance if he stayed in. So I love that it's almost like a yin yang of
Totally.
helping one another moving forward.
Yes.
So now, did you always have the goal of like once you hit health coaching, like this is it, this is where I'm off and running, or was it just a position that felt really good while you were raising a young family, thinking that it might change again, you might go back to teaching, or was this it?
That's a good question. It was like as soon as I found this career, I knew I was in it for the rest of my life. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I saw from the very first day that I was going to be able to make something huge of myself. I saw that I was going to author something. I created a program very quickly out of the one-on-one work I was doing with women. And out of that, I knew that I was going to speak about it too. So it was like, I don't know, Cupid's arrow hit me with my job, and I just was like, this is what I love.
Yeah, isn't it nice when you can actually work every day and like the mission,
Yes.
like what lights you up? It's wonderful. All right, let's fast forward. So tell us about approaching the divorce. How did that feel? And then what did it look like for you when you did actually divorce or separate?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because of the comfort and the place and space that my ex and I made for each other. The divorce was crushing, of course, but almost felt seamless because what we had created together was this grounded, even playing field, loving relationship that ultimately, for about 7 years, we both felt like was a really deep friendship. And it just came to a point where we decided that unwinding or uncoupling our marriage would be the best thing for both of us, and that we could do it in a way that would be healthy for the kids and healthy for our relationship and respectful of each other. So that was the hard decision that we had to make. And losing my best friend after being together for 10 years was, like I said, just devastating, and took a while for me to kind of recover from that. But in that recovery, I knew I was looking for something really special and something a little bit different than the depth of a friendship that I had had with this person who I created this beautiful family with. And in walks my current partner, who we met actually through a work kind of a work event or something that I was doing. I was running a Couch to 5K program in my local neighborhood, and she showed up. And it wasn't, we didn't get to know each other very well at first, but there was one day when she showed up for a second run and nobody else showed up for it. And I was leading this, and she told me that I didn't have to lead that. And I said, no, I want to. And we went out together and got to talking and really took a liking to each other, and things developed then, although COVID hit about 4 weeks into it.
Oh, wow.
So here was this relationship that had just started budding kind of as a friendship and started maybe having some flirtatious kind of, things back and forth, and was completely halted by COVID for months and months and months. But through that time, we got to know each other through messages, through emails, through talking, through distance, which was a really special and interesting way to get to know someone. She was very invested in my business thriving, really my biggest cheerleader when it came to trying to grow. Really helped me look at how to grow a business from something that was just me to something that was made a greater impact, and had a lot of interest in helping me do that and making sure that I really valued my worth, which was hard for me in the beginning.
Yeah. So while you're doing all of this, I mean, you've actually moved from a marriage, now it's COVID. How was it to try to grow a business in the middle of COVID?
Surprisingly, I had just finished a program with a woman in Canada who had something called the Wellness Business Hub. And that program, in addition to her 10K success system, was all about how to scale your business online. And I had done that right before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, it was like the skies parted, and like everybody wanted to work with me. It was the most beautiful thing because people were looking for a sense of meaning and a sense of joy and a way to take care of themselves at a time that felt really uncertain. And so it was a really incredible time for me, my business, my relationship, the friendships that I was cultivating at the time. It actually created something where we were like, we are not going to stop. We're not going to let this keep us down, and really strengthen the community of women that I put together for the health coaching.
So I love that. So you were almost prepared and ready for this
Yeah.
online world that the rest of us were just getting introduced to.
Yeah. I had no idea, but yes.
Yeah. So now how did you do that with managing the kids, right? So everyone's staying at home, everyone's learning from home. How did you and your first wife have that positioning with the care of the kids, especially during COVID?
Yeah. So this is crazy and a little what's the word? Unconventional.
Go
Okay.
for it. Oh, I
All
can't
right.
wait.
All right. So
Share
here we
it.
go. We're going to let it all out. So my ex and I were actually living together while we were both exploring external relationships. So COVID hits, we're both in other relationships, but we're living together. My ex and I decided to take our whole family to the Catskills to her parents' place. And I open up a homeschool because, as I said, my previous, one of my many jobs was to be an educator. So I opened up a homeschool for kids, fifth grade and below, in a garage in a field of the Catskills, and I basically held space for them to do virtual learning, to play outside, and to have a community together while I also grew my business.
Wow. So
So
this is what we're talking about. Like, how do you do it? How do you parent? How do you lean on your community, lean on others, and transition when you have to? That's a huge pivot.
it is a huge pivot, and I think it's kind of what kept me alive, knowing that my marriage was coming to a close, was pouring myself into parts of myself that really mattered, into taking care of my kids, taking care of education for my kids and other kids, taking care of my business. And, people didn't have rigid timelines back then. So the help that I could offer was kind of like any time worked for anybody. Remember in COVID, it was kind of like, we don't know what we're doing, when we're doing it, but I think we have this time and you can schedule things kind of when you wanted. So that really worked. But yeah, how do you do it? I don't know. You know what? I ask myself that all the time. How did I do so many things? And I think I just found it necessary to distract myself with the things that I loved that were important in order to get through a really crappy time.
Understood. Understood. I always said the first year of widowhood for me, I went all in.
Yeah.
And because I needed to keep busy, I needed to keep community, I needed to keep engaged because it was that community that fed me emotionally. Because if I stopped, I was afraid to the grief would catch up to me. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
Yes.
slowed the roll a little bit so I could get the help I needed, so I could find that next best step. So let's say, fast forward again, we're going to say COVID's all done, and now it's time for you to actually move out. How did that work? How do you share the girls? How does parenting work?
Yeah. Well, again, my ex and I were very cordial to we're still great friends. We celebrate holidays together. She stays over Christmas Eve. Like we just have a very committed, relationship for our family. And we just went 50-50 with
Love it.
everything. So we went 50-50 with custody of the kids. So I get them certain days of the week. She gets them certain days of the week. And the only thing that switches are weekends. And so we figured that way. One of us always has the kids for 5 days in a row, which means that we can make a plan to go and do
Yeah.
something. Like everything's not so fast moving. But we live a mile away from each other and get to see the kids whenever we want.
I
So
love
that
that.
really works out for us.
All right, so tell listeners, because I know this detail, tell the listeners about the pets.
Oh, the pets. So the dogs move with the kids.
Love that.
Yeah, we got Betsy, our little dog, right before COVID, and Mark we've had since Jillian was 6 months old. So the kids are very attached to them, and they do move with the children.
I love that. I was like, oh my God, that's
Yeah,
fantastic. So, all right. So you move forward. You're in this new relationship now. The kids are blended. And I've just recently, launched a book about the blending of families. Tell me some of your tips, some of the funny moments, some of the hardships. As one, we're bringing kids because there's some age difference between your kids living together.
yeah,
I had the blessing that my kids knew one another prior to Jim and I getting married. And how did that work for you? And again, learning how someone else navigates their finances and their household. It's all new again. And you're not
yeah.
young, right? Like we
Yeah.
have our experiences behind us. So talk to us through that a bit.
Where do I start? It actually starts from when I was in the house by myself with the kids and I decided that I could no longer afford it. And at that point, it was either go find something more affordable for myself and sell the house, move in with my partner, or we were going to find something new together. And we had to make that decision. And it took us a couple of months to decide. But ultimately, we thought a fresh new start for everybody would be what was best. And we would do a house together. Now, it turns out some of the kids were really excited about it. Some of the kids were less than enthused about it. Some of the kids were kind of neutral about it. So moving four children into a new house isn't just like, hey, kids, look at this beautiful home that we're going to share together. It's dealing with all of the feelings and all of the emotions and all of the pushback that comes naturally from kids of all ages who have never lived with anybody else, who all of a sudden go from being the oldest and the youngest to the middle child and the oldest of four and the youngest of four. I mean,
Yeah, it's big.
unanticipated things, right? The emotional part was the hardest. The financial part was it seemed like cut and dry because for me, my previous relationship, it was so simple. We're together in this, we share finances, this is easy. And somehow I thought that that was just what was going to happen in my
That
new
was the
relationship.
norm.
That
That's
was
how
the
people
norm.
did
That was all I
it.
was used to. I was like, oh, we take care of each other. The difference is that my partner now is much more established financially and career wise than I am. Has been doing the same thing for 30 years. I've been doing the same thing for 7 years. So you can imagine the amount of growth that somebody can have over 3 decades as opposed to
Sure.
less than a decade. So that wasn't an even playing field. And what I didn't think about was what was the structure going to be between two people who have two kids coming from either side who aren't responsible financially for the well-being of the other children, one person who makes less, the other person who makes more, and we decided to go through an 80-20 split on
Okay.
everything. Seemed again cut and dry, like okay, that makes sense. But when you come into a relationship, this is what I have felt in myself, and I don't know if this is true for other people. This may work for other people, but for me, it was really hard to draw a hard line in the sand and to say, you are 80, I am 20, and this is the way that it is. It didn't feel like it was emotionally supported. It didn't feel like it was even playing field anymore. It felt like if we're going to buy this and you can't put in 80 or you can't put in 20, then we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that was really hard and painful because I also wasn't the one to set the rule.
Because you were the 20?
Because I was the 20,
Yep.
right? Which, I think a lot of people would be really grateful for. Oh my gosh, like that makes a lot of sense. And I think this is really great. And I don't have to pay as much. It's not 50-50. But there's something about owning a business also where your income is not the same every single month. It's all over the place. Some months you're rolling out a new program and you do incredibly well. And some months you don't roll out a new program and you're just kind of like sitting, in the water like a duck or whatever. And you're, nothing interesting happening. No harm, no foul. But that's just the way that it is. So when you have an 80-20 split like that, and I'm having a month where I don't feel like I've made enough to be able to contribute, suddenly like I feel like my sense of worth is affected or something. It's like, oh, here I am responsible for this 20% again this month, and I don't feel like I have enough.
Yeah.
And that feeling creates resentment, fear of having a conversation, fear of being seen as someone who can't rise to the challenge. And all of those things with this person that I love deeply, that I fell in love with after a relationship that I had that was comfy, cozy, money, no problem. And this thing was like the big elephant in the room
Yeah.
that was really, really, really hard.
Especially too when you had that small amount of time that you were in the house on your own and realized, okay, this doesn't feel comfortable for me financially, because I know as a business owner too, sometimes we have to put investments into the business,
Yeah.
knowing that it will come out in the long run, but not right now, and things feel tight, right?
Yeah.
But being aware of that on your own and being able to make that decision, right? And I hear and I love so much that you said, like 80-20 is the finances of it, but the decision of it really has to be 50-50. And is it not, right? The decision is different than the numbers that support what we're talking about. And
Oh
I
my
think
God,
that's,
you just gave me chills. Yes, all the decisions have to be 50-50, and it's just a number. And it felt like our relationship came down to oversimplified to a number instead of a decision, decisions from the heart.
no, that's a beautiful way to say it. The decisions from the heart. You might have just gone ahead and gotten the podcast title for this one, Decisions from the Heart. I think you nailed it. But I even know too, like I used to always say to my first husband before he passed, because I ran the finances in the house, but he brought in most of the money, right? I had given up my career. But I always remember saying, like, I'm so worried if something happens to me, you don't know where anything is, because the decisions for what we did next always just came out of the joint account, right? Everyone's funds went in there, my part-time work, his work, but the decisions came out of it. And I always needed him to want to step up to make those decisions. And he was just happy to have someone else run it. Now, that was a blessing for me when he passed, because I knew where everything was, right? And I was used to making the decisions without having to run much past them, except for some of the bigger ones.
Yep.
But I can find for so many of our divorcees too that might not have had the financial lingo. You had such a supportive, beautiful, sharing relationship beforehand. But imagine if you didn't make any of those decisions and you didn't have a say, and now you're divorced and now all the decisions are yours. That overwhelm has to feel really big, really
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are making decisions with your business and helping, like, do you find that you bring in your new partner and saying, "Hey, I'm about to do this," or do you put a wall in that?
So this is really interesting that you asked that, because when we moved in together, I was feeling like I was just like an independent woman. I had been used to making decisions on my own, even in my former relationship. I was like, I use my money how I want to, like mine, 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 right?
That was definitely me in widowhood. Like my way, all my way.
Yep. So I would take a lot of money and put it into my business because I love the community of other women. I love building my business with other women. I love coaching. I get my own coaching from other from business coaches, and I invested a lot of my money in that without really talking to my partner about it. And that was fine for me. And sort of fine for her. But then when it came down to this idea that I don't have enough, suddenly I've been pouring, tens of thousands of dollars into my business. And why isn't that money coming into, income for the house? So what we've developed between each other finally is the ability to have all those conversations and to share. And I thought that I was the only one that had to be vulnerable. Or I was the only one that had fear around money, or I was the only one that needed to have these conversations. And it turns out that actually, when she shared with me all of her fears, and just because she made more didn't mean that her mindset around it was any different than mine. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So we had this half of a day. We took it like half of a Sunday where we just like poured everything that we thought about money and and what we were going to do, and said we're having 50-50 conversations
Yeah. I
now.
love that you put it on the table, you had transparency. Where did you come from in your feelings about money, right?
Yeah.
Versus where did she have, where did experiences take you? And now where do we go from here with finally having the awareness of where everybody was coming from? Because it's almost like it was an unspoken, ununderstood situation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And now if I'm going to make a big investment in my business, I don't have to talk to her about it, but I feel like the right thing to do is to have a together conversation. I get to say, "Hey, listen, there's this thing that I really want to do, and I think it would be in my best interest." And she might have an opinion about it,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And better for us to talk through it and to talk about how that might impact the next couple months of mortgage or what I might need than for me to just say, I'm doing these decisions and whoops, I don't have enough.
Yeah. No, very wise. Very, very wise. I always remember late husband and I always had the rule if it was something over $500, we could consult one another. Otherwise, you
Ooh.
could just make that decision on your own. Now, I didn't have my own business at the time, and I don't know if I would have shared that decision making with him. But I certainly do share it with my current husband Jim because he helped me start it. Like he did that sacrifice of stepping away from his full-time career to be my little admin and a carpenter learning Excel. Right? Like, he did it. So he does get a say on where does this go because he's helped me from the very beginning. But that was very, and again, I cannot imagine husband number one even paying any role in the business. We would have been probably silos in it. So it's just neat how who we are as people is what impacts how we make our decisions, and knowing our past relationships impact the future ones too.
They really do. Yeah.
Thank you, my love. All right, magic wand time. Where do you see
Okay.
yourselves in 5 years, 10 years, family finances? Tell us.
Oh, family finances, 5 or 10 years. My partner and I talk about getting married all the time. So, the likelihood of us actually joining in marriage is on the horizon. So I'm
Yay.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, and I don't know what that means for our finances, but
You'll
we're
figure that out. It
we're
can
working
roll.
through it right now, and we'll figure it out then. I think
Yeah.
probably something beneficial that I haven't really looked at yet.
It'll be all good. That's
Yeah,
great. You
yeah,
always lean into some professionals out there,
that's right.
CDFAs, CFPs, they're good people.
Oh, I
But
know it. I know it. Um, and family, two of our kids will be away at college. The other
yeah,
one's in high school, thinking about college, and the other one, I can't believe it. Like that's how old they're going to be. But that'll be a really beautiful time, And in 10 years, my partner's actually quite a bit older than me, and she will likely be retiring. So, as you
okay.
were talking about how Jim helps you and has helped you, I see that role coming up for her because she loves helping me in my business. And not that she'll be doing admin work or things like that, but the way her brain works is so different than mine, which is why we work so well together. I get to be this like creative, person writing books and coaching women and speaking. And she's like very methodical and logical and money savvy. And
Mhm.
so I think that that's really going to work for us when she has more time on her hands. She's very busy with her work now as she prepares the next 5 years for retirement. So I see that. And yeah, I really see my business flourishing even more than it is, and the ability to be able to reach more women through speaking. And I had a download the other day that I'm going to write a second book. So
Ooh, I love it. The first one's not even officially out.
yeah,
Look at you, go
exactly.
getter. So, for the people that want to find out more, tell me about how they can reach out to you. What might you have going on that could be interesting to our listeners?
Sure. So my whole business that I started before COVID was for women just to seek health coaching. But the biggest thing that women really came to see me for was for weight loss. And in that time that we spent together, where they were telling me about how they wanted to lose weight, I recognized that there were a lot of patterns of diet trauma, of yo-yo dieting, of continuing to put on and off the same amount of weight over and over again. And when we deeply explored that together through nutrition, but also through brain science strategies, I realized that what we really needed to work on was to resolve those memories and those dieting stressors that had gone on in their life in order for them to be able to sustain a healthy weight and to feel like they could live healthily without falling back, as they say, off the wagon.
Yeah.
So that's what my book is about. And on June 11th, I do have my book launch, but it's also a special workshop that's going to go through some of these principles in the book that I talk about. And it's called Rewire for Health. And it'll be the brain science strategies from the energetic eating method. And I get to walk participants through some of those strategies from the book, and hopefully support them after the workshop to be able to become the best versions of themselves without having to go back to those ding dang diets.
I like ding dang dies. I'm like, did she
Yeah.
say ding dong? I love eating those.
Yeah.
But,
Right, right.
no. But
And
no,
that's
this
okay.
I know, but this is fantastic because I will even say, like myself, like we talked about, like year one of grief, either in widowhood and divorce. Year two is when you start to try to be like, all right, I'm going to get my groove back on, right? And so many of us have to start at that core of ourselves, right? Because if we don't make our own physical bodies strong and feel good, we don't really have that much to give to everybody else. And for so many times when you're a parent, when you're young, a sole parent, a single parent, you're giving to all around you. And sometimes you put yourself last. So I love that you're out there encouraging women to be that healthier version of themselves so that there's more of you to love and more energy to love around. So,
Thank you. That was very well said.
oh, thanks, Boo. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll make sure all of your contact information is out there in the podcast. And I just want to personally thank you so much. We know one another a little bit outside of just this podcast interview. You are an amazing energy, and it's a privilege to have you here. Thank you for
Thank you
sharing
so
your
much.
journey.
Yeah, thank you.